Are you looking to level up your author business?
Are you pounding your head against a wall, wondering what your next step should be? Then join me, Daniel Wilcox.
And me, Sacha Black, as we haul ass each week in a bid to level up.
Level up!
Come along for the ride as we delve deep into the business of writing,
Craft,
entrepreneurship,
and every level of the author journey. This is the Next Level Author podcast.
Hello, Achievers. This is episode 93 of the Next Level Author podcast, a podcast where we hold each other to account and track our step-by-step progress as we level up our author business. My name is Sacha Black, and here with me every week is
Daniel Wilcox.
The only reason I got it right is because I had to look for comments. Otherwise, I wouldn't have had a fucking clue. Because when I opened Facebook, I was like, oh, look, we're nearly at episode 100. Pardon?
We're like months away from episode 100.
2 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, because 7 weeks. So this is going to be a fun question. How was your Christmas, Dan? How are you even going to answer this?
I don't know. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about how I was going to answer this question, and it's mental because this is the first fucking question, and it's normally like arguably the easiest because it's just a general whatever. But I try and like be positive, and especially at the start of the year, I like to start with a bit of sparkle, a bit of pizzazz, and
hashtag positivity number 4.
Positive number 4. I've just realised as well, this is a slight little note on my side. I'm not on the right phone. There we go. That makes that better. And I'm on the right speaker now. So that should make sound infinitely better. Anyhow, So I want to be honest. I want to be transparent. I don't want to like bump people out at the start of the year, but this is how my Christmas went. I did not spend any time with my family, and I did not see my son because of COVID, which I caught on what I believe to have been the 20th of December, and I did not test negative until New Year's Day. And so I don't know what happened to Christmas. A lot of it was spent in isolation. Luckily, I was surrounded by some amazing people who helped me through. But it was arguably the worst Christmas of my life because, you have a kid and you want to spend those times with them. You want to spend Christmas, you want to spend New Year, you want to spend birthdays, you want to spend all of these like times with your child when you have them. And, not only am I a single father, so obviously Christmas is split each year and it swaps either side, but I had none of the thing that really mattered to me. And like, I've learned a lot of lessons from it because I worked my arse off through the beginning of December to earn myself a Christmas break so that I could spend it with my son. And life did not give me that. And so, there's elements of newfound appreciation in certain ways. Like I'll go into it in a little bit, but like I'm reviewing a lot of what I do with my work and what I'm doing going forward, because like that's not okay for me. That just hasn't been okay. I managed to see my son on New Year's Day, and then I was super paranoid that even though I tested negative on the COVID test, that I was going to give it to him. And then, he's back at school this week. So I'm now terrified that he's going to pick it up at school and then be in isolation. And like, I don't know, it's rife in the UK at the minute. 1 in 10 people have it or have caught it in the last few days. And yeah, that's my Christmas. That's where I was at. So I'm okay. Yeah. I just very much feel like I haven't had a break. Even though I did have a break, I feel like I didn't have a break because emotionally it was exhausting.
Yeah. Yeah, so I am so with you.
And tell me about yours, Sacha.
Yeah, well, I know. I was just going to say I felt for you during the Christmas holidays, knowing what you were going through and how awful it was. And there was nothing that anybody could do. That's the worst thing. Like nobody could do anything about it. You just have to ride it out. Our Christmas was somewhat similar, but shifted. So we did get Christmas Eve. We got Christmas Day. We got Boxing Day. And then on the 27th, we went and saw Chloe's nan. And then on the 28th, she started feeling not very well. She tested, she was negative. 29th, she didn't feel very well. She tested, she was negative. And then on the morning of the 30th, she tested and she was positive. Now, we are very privileged in that we have enough spare bedrooms for me and her to split up. So she went into our main bedroom where there's an ensuite and locked herself in and didn't come out for 8 days. And that was emotionally grueling. I have learned a few things. The first thing is I still really fucking love my wife.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, I know, right? What a lesson to learn. No, like I say it jokingly, but like you do when you have like a husband or spouse or partner or whatever, you do sometimes take them for granted, or you get irritated with trivial things that don't really matter. And it was torture. Like, not only was it exhausting looking after Atlas and having to do all the house cleaning and trying to keep my business going and all the rest of it, I was emotionally exhausted as well. And so that I don't think I'm going to moan about my wife for a really long time. Now I've forgotten what the other thing I was going to say, because I learned some stuff and now I'm trying to think about what the things I learned were. You know, it's gone out of my brain now.
Well, while you search for it, would you mind if I did a public service announcement?
Yeah.
Because having gone through COVID and the system, and obviously granted the system in the UK is going to be changing massively in the next few weeks, I found out some stuff that should be very, very simple, but just has not been expressed in a simple way through, like, at least the UK government. What is it? Turn off notifications, go away. So what I discovered was, and part of this I know anyway, and if you know this, like, this isn't for you, this is for people that don't know. When you get COVID, you can be asymptomatic for 6 to 7 days, or you can have symptoms and keep testing negative on a lateral flow, which is why they say to book a PCR, because a PCR test basically is a much deeper dive into whether or not you are positive with COVID, and it can tell that either way. Through a PCR test, you can test positive for up to 90 days because it detects it in your system. So if you know you had COVID and then you test negative on a lateral flow, there's no point doing a PCR, or to check that you're no longer negative, no longer positive. A PCR is pointless. The lateral flow test is for infectiousness. So I tested negative on Christmas Eve. I clearly had picked up COVID on the 20th. So I'd had it for 4 days at that point. And then on Boxing Day, I tested positive on both the lateral flow and the PCR test because the results came back. But so many people that I know are assuming that because they've tested negative on a lateral, even though they've been around a lot of people that are exposed, that they're instantly negative. But there's nothing to say that you can't test negative on a lateral flow and then 3 hours later test positive, because you are COVID positive. You're just not yet infectious. So the lateral flow is an infectiousness test. Like, if you want to keep your family safe, if you want to check that you're, what stage you're at, it's the lateral flow. And it's amazing how many people I've spoken to that don't understand that. And even because I ended up phoning an NHS nurse because I could not find just straightforward information online that was useful.
Yeah.
And I said to her, if I'm testing positive on a lateral flow on day 10, which is the end of the isolation period, does that still mean that I'm okay to go? Because everyone that I know isolates for 10 days and then they just go out into the world. And she said, well, no, the actual rules are you're supposed to test 2 negatives within a 24-hour period, or negative on that day 10. And so, essentially your isolation could be up to 12 to 14 days. But a lot of people are getting to day 10 and going, well, I'm clear now, and then going out and infecting more people. So just, there's a lot to be said. But for me, one big thing that I've said to quite a few people over the holiday period is, why do medical people call everything by a medical name? Like, call the lateral flow test a COVID contingency test. Make it obvious what it is so that people understand, so that then the general public can do the right thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's my soapbox. Have you thought of any of your other lessons?
Well, I didn't tell you any of them, but I've forgotten.
No, you love your wife. That's one.
Yeah, but that wasn't what I was going to talk about. I can't remember. Anyway, oh well.
Okay. Well, before we carry on, I do also have a nice little nugget for people that I've been messaged this a lot over the last week, of people that have heard this and have also heard what we've just explained. But I'm going to share screen. I'm going to share sound for a second.
Okay.
And hopefully this comes across on the podcast. But here we go. A fun night on New Year's Eve, whatever that has brought. As we said earlier, it is the 17th of December as we record, so we have no idea what the next few weeks are going to bring. Anything has changed since last week, but how has your week been, Sacha?
Oh God. We saw family.
Uh-huh.
And
I love doing these.
Yeah, right. So we saw lots of family. We did all of the traveling miles, and then the last few days we've just chilled at home and we've played loads of games.
That's
and
true.
I've had some time with Atlas, and I've read
That's
loads of
also
books.
true.
Completed my reading challenge.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's been really nice. It's been the relaxing break that I needed.
Not true.
But I'm sort of still recovering from all the driving, and I can say that with absolute knowledge, because that's what I do every year. Those Christmas days are mental every year because we drive 45,000 miles.
Hilarious.
But yeah, it's been good. How about you? How was your break?
I want to go back and listen to this like the day after and just see where that's at. Yeah, it's been good. Like, I drank a bit too much Jack Daniels. I fucking dropped my phone on the fireplace and smashed the screen. Me and my dad no longer talk. And yeah, like that's where it's at. So,
and you got engaged and married in Vegas.
Did I? Holy shit! Wow, wow, big end of the year to me.
Yeah. Oh, that's funny.
We'll leave that there. One of those things is true. I'll let you decide which.
Yeah, and the funny thing is, mine was pretty fucking accurate as well. Yeah. That is hilarious. I did read loads of books. I did finish my reading goal. I did play loads of games with Atlas. I had time with Atlas. Like, all of that is true. I got it right. I am a fucking psychic.
And I did drink.
Oh well, we were almost there, weren't we?
Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, it's going to really annoy me because I had things I wanted to say and I can't remember what any of them are.
I'm sure they'll come back at some point. Yeah. Just shout them when they come.
Yeah. Okay, so level up. Do we have a level up?
Probably.
Look, I'm going to do a level up for somebody who has not given it to us, but I'm going to do it anyway. So
I might know where you're going with this.
I'm going to do two. I'm going to do two this week. So 2 patrons. I'm not sure if they're patrons of NLA as well. I know one of them's a patron of NLA. I'm not sure if the other one is, but 2 Rebel patrons published their first book on the same day.
Yeah.
So Shane Miller, or S.W. Miller, published his first book in the urban fantasy series, and it's a fucking tome as well. So congratulations to Shane. And Scott Williamson also published his first anthology, which he did following Dean Wesley Smith. Like, he took a course to publish an anthology, and he just fucking did it on the sly as well. Like, didn't tell anyone until like the day it was launching, and now like everyone's found out. But yeah, so really fucking proud of both of them. Big congratulations, lads.
Such a huge milestone.
Yeah, well fucking done. And onwards to world domination.
Love that.
Speaking of patrons, do we have any patrons?
We do. We have Jessica A. McMinn. I almost make McGinn then, but McMinn. So welcome to the tribe. You get access to all the episodes early, and you also get into our live Q&As that we do every month. So welcome, and thank you very much for your support.
Yeah, welcome. So notices, do you have one?
No, because everything will be over by the time that this airs. Apart from for patrons. I mean, so I am about to jump into my first arranged mastermind, and there are a couple spots left. So if anyone wants to join us every Wednesday evening, UK time, for the next 3 months, where we level each other up and hold each other to account and really sort of try and break through the obstacles that people are facing, then head on over to activatedauthors.com/mastermind.
Excellent. Thing that you've enjoyed this week?
So there has honestly been quite a few things that I enjoyed. One of them is that I finished Matthew McConaughey's Green Lights book, which
interesting.
Yeah, it was a real interesting read because he's led just an amazing life, and I don't know what it is. I have a kind of like fascination with American Deep South and the kind of blue collar working and the myths and the legends and sort of like the attitudes and things. Not so much without getting into politics, that side of stuff, but just like the general sort of folklore and the magic of, New Orleans and Texas and all that kind of area. And it's just interesting seeing someone who came from a very blue collar working family, very, very Christian, and rising into Hollywood. And he goes through a bunch of he's had a very interesting life, very, very different sort of path to how I see life, but it's just really interesting to read and notice a lot of the similar lessons that cross over, no matter like where you come from, no matter what you do. There's always sort of what's the word, like universal rules of life that sort of transcend no matter what you're doing. And it was a good read. It was interesting. I don't think it's for everyone's flavor, but for, you know, me who likes to see the behind the scenes and see people's life and see, you know, what it is that's making them tick and become successful, it was fascinating. So very much enjoyed that.
Excellent. I have been watching the new Gossip Girl remake. I was very skeptical at first. I watched about 5 minutes of an episode a few months ago and was like,
why are they remaking it?
I don't know. It's kind of, so it's set obviously in New York still, and there are references to the old characters. And a couple of the characters do make an appearance, but not the main ones. Sort of some of the side characters make an appearance. It was exactly what I needed. I'd forgotten how much I love Gossip Girl. And so that, yeah, there's like the new Gossip Girl, and it's, I think, 12 episodes. And I've got, I think, maybe like 1.5 episodes to go, or maybe 2 episodes to go. So it's been very good, very addictive. And yeah, and I've watched that over the last, 9 days. But yeah, loving it. I think it's so fun. I just love that shit.
Yeah. I'll tell you something else I've enjoyed as well, just a quick one. I have basically uninstalled social media from my phone, and I've also removed the Fitbit from my wrist because I'm tired of tracking and notifications and all the things that are stealing my attention. I know we spoke about this before Christmas, just how active you have to be to stop people stealing your time. And so I have wiped those out. I'm looking at like very much different ways to promote my business and sort of, you know, keep putting stuff out there. But I'm doing like a whole reevaluation of advertising and brand building and everything else that isn't going to be independent of social media. That'll still be there, but it's vastly reducing sort of my reliance on that as a tool.
So this is interesting, because you've reminded me what one of my lessons was. I spent the last 6 months of last year trying to finish it so that I could start January with a fresh slate. I didn't do that because I came into January and I've still got 4 major things that need finishing. The anthology needs publishing, Trey needs finishing, Siren needs finishing. There's something else. Anyway, and I was like, so any planning that I'd done for this year is already fucked, because I've got to spend the whole of January mopping up all the rest of this stuff. And like when I came to start doing it, I was like, I've got fucking 600 emails again. Yeah. Obviously, I don't have 600 emails, but I've got tasks. I've got people wanting shit from me. I've still got bits of freelance. I've got little bits of this, that, and the other. And I'm just fucking done, Dan. I am done with all of it. So I really desperately want to write new stuff, and I can't. And it's really pissed me off. Like I started this year. Yes. So this was what it was also supposed to say. I started this year really low. The first few days of this year, obviously I was also dealing with like Chloe being in quarantine and locked in a room, having to deal with Atlas, but I mentally was really, really low. I was frustrated I wasn't getting my new start. I was angry that I couldn't go and write words. I was pissed off that I had all of these trivial little tasks to do. And yeah, I just wasn't happy about it. And that's not how I want to spend this year. So I have told Chloe this, and this weekend I'm going to tell her all of the things, and she is going to use her command and tell me what I need to stop doing and what I need to outsource, because I am so blind to what I'm doing that I can't see the wood for the trees anyway. So I have accepted the fact that I am going to have to take the whole of January to finish off stuff. Fine, but it is not leaking into February. So yeah, and so there are some things I'm going to be doing differently this year. I'm definitely going to end this year set differently to the way that I started this year, and just in a different position, because I don't want to come into I can't. I
feel you. Like it's the monster that we create. And I'm spending today doing pretty much the same thing. Like after this chat, I'm going to my favorite little coffee haunt before I pick Bailey up. and I am basically scribbling all the things so that I can be really sort of strict and just cut out the shit.
Yeah, and I'm outsourcing. Like I am actively going to outsource. I don't know how many hours my VA can take on, but I'm going to outsource the fucking shit out of my business because I just want to do the things that I want to do. So, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as well. Like so I'm seeing my family this weekend, and that's going to be like our replacement Christmas, as it were. And I just don't feel ready to start the year until that's done. Yeah. So like I've been doing bits and pieces the last few days, but I wouldn't count it as work. Like I've just been pottering, and I'm not.
I've done stuff this week. I have done stuff, but exciting stuff too. But no, I don't feel like the year is going to start till February. Can we just start again in February?
Yeah, you can start whenever. Like I generally, like a long time ago, I don't pay credence to like it all starts Monday because that's the start of a fresh week. Like for me, I'm at a point in my life where it's like if I want to start the thing, I'm going to start the thing no matter when it is.
Yeah.
So I'm not massively tied into New Year's as like a way to propel yourself forward anymore, because the way that I see it, I should have, like, if I want to get that motivation to like lose weight or write more or anything else, and I have that at the beginning of December, that's when I start. And I've done that before where I've dieted over Christmas because I've started, and it shouldn't be an excuse to not do the thing that you want to do.
I think on day 11 of fasting.
Hey.
For that exact reason, because I was like, why would I wait till January? I'm just gonna fucking start. So I just did. I just started. 11 days. I've lost 1.5 inches on my waist already.
Hey.
I was like, fuck.
Yeah.
But a lot of that was like sugar, like dehydration, like carb bloating, all of that stuff. So obviously that's like, now the hard work starts.
Nice.
Also, I ordered a squat rack and a bench, and we're converting the garage into a strengths thing, because I was like, I fucking hate cardio. I hate it. Like I have got my spin bike in my office and I will use it sometimes, but I'm not gonna like excessively use it because I don't actually enjoy cardio. But when you do strengths, if you fucking work hard enough, you get your heart rate up. So like I was like, and I love strengths, and so I'm gonna fucking do that. So I am, and like it's half set up. I just need to get the squat rack on it, and the other things getting delivered today. So then next week it is going to be a next week, but only, or maybe the weekend, just because I am still not 100%. I'm trying to pack myself with minerals and stuff. Okay, so comments. Right, so how this is going to work, we've got 4 episodes to cover, so we're going to pick a couple of comments from each one. I'm going to start because I have the earliest episode, which is episode 89. The question was, what are you going to do for you in 2022? So Claire Hardacre said, as soon as Sacha Black said bubble baths, I was opening Facebook to tell you about Lush bubble bars, but you're already on it. Love them so much. Can I just say, the Lush bubble bar is like my favorite fucking thing. They say it only lasts like a few bars, but I think I've had, I don't know, I can get about 10 out of it, 8 to 10 bars out of it, because I just like, I cut it up into like
just
sections.
Get like the potato peeler.
Yeah, literally, like I like cut it up into little sections and then just like crumble a section in. But anyway, so that was that one. And then Kerry Hadiski said, in May, the weekend of my birthday, my best friend and I are traveling out of state to a medieval fair. Her cousin lives in that state, and I also invited a writing friend I've only seen online, so I'm pretty excited. We're already planning our costumes.
Nice. I want to go to one of those.
Episode 90.
Episode 90 was our review of 2021, and we had Ember, who said, I made a lot of goals for 2021. I think I achieved half of them, which is a pretty good amount. Number 1 was to write and publish the Butterpond Mysteries trilogy, done. Number 2 was to write the Leanne Chronicles, done. Number 3, financial goals, missed. Number 4, release 4 sets of planners, voided. Number 5, better relationship with my sister, going to consider it done, but continue to work on it, which I think is fair. Number 6, feel good in my body, done, but continuing to improve. Ida said, I just saw the episode. I'm behind a week because of Christmas. First, thanks to Dan and Sacha for the shout out. Regarding the question, my main goal for 2021 was to publish, and I did, not with book 1 as I expected, which I've been there, but with an anthology that went live December 1st. Also in July 2021, I put a reader magnet on BookFunnel, and that has gotten almost 700 downloads. So that's kind of cool. And my other main goal was a personal one to get healthier, and I joined Orange Theory, and I really liked it. I have no idea what Orange Theory is, but I'm going to be Googling that after this. And then just one more from the ever immortal Edwin, who says, in the end, my goal was to keep my head above water given 2020. In that respect, I've achieved my goal. I really did want to get my work in progress done and in the wild by this time, but that has not happened.
Okay, so episode 91 was what are your goals for 2022? Claire Donnelly said, I'm taking it easy on myself as I'm having a baby in January. And she's not the only person we know having a baby in January either. Actually. Yeah. And so essentially saying she's not sure how much time she's going to have, but have 3 novels ready for publication and begin releasing them by the end of the year. Continue to write and query agents with her children's books. Read 52 books in the year, focusing more on non-fiction. Get back on ice and more comfortable in my skates again, even if I'm not playing hockey. Get my driver's license. Ida said, publish at least 3 books, join and write for at least 3 anthologies, write rom-com. Looking. Keep going to the gym and grow like Facebook page. There's a couple of others on there as well. So yeah,
nice. And then episode 92 which was what is your definition of success? Part 2, revisiting one of our first questions. And Renee Gallant said, so question, something we'll probably obviously touch on, but I would like to hear a response. Oh wait, so is this a question? Oh, we might have to follow up on this one. She asks what lessons you may have learned or if your beliefs and opinions about anything have changed in the last few weeks. Maybe we can turn that into a question in one of the coming weeks. Okay. Michael Nasberg says, my definition of success is simple, getting to leave my old 9-to-5 job and not having to find another. Edwin says, I've settled on a 2-part definition. Generate enough income from my writing to zero out buy books and keep them above zero for future works, and generate enough income so that when I retire from the bread and butter job, I am free to travel to cons outside the local area for networking and marketing purposes. And then final one from Meg, who says, great episode, hearing how your definitions have evolved. Success for me is still freedom, legacy, and peace at its core. So to briefly expand, making enough money to secure financial freedom now through my life and for those I love. Legacy, because I want my fleeting time on this good earth to have some kind of point and leave a positive imprint upon others. Peace, to find meaning in life, inner contentment and belonging. Of course, there's a lot more detail to that, but these are what I'm seeking and growing towards. And just to quickly add, on episode 90, we we asked Claire, who had basically promised to leave her definition of bits and pieces in like a previous episode, and she hadn't done it, and she now has a huge post in there outlining all of the things. So thank you for sharing that, Claire.
Awesome. Okay, so question of the week.
Uh-oh.
All right. So everybody says that self-inserts are a really bad thing in fiction, but I don't believe that any book is free of pieces of the author. I think they are creations and products of our mind. So my question to you is, what pieces of yourself do you put into your writing?
Murdering dogs and Wendigo erections.
Brilliant.
Your turn.
Okay.
Oh man, it's amazing what people like pick out of your books, and that's the stuff that sticks. What pieces of myself have I put into books? Sort of taking what I just joked about and moving it into a more serious manner. Not the Wendigo erections, we'll leave that to the side. But so I write horror for the most part, and with horror comes a lot of touching on taboo subjects and things that essentially are reflections of myself. The best horror that I can write are the things that scare me. So I do have a lot of people constantly reminding me that on multiple occasions I have harmed dogs in a book, never in real life. And that's kind of my point. Like, people are like, well, how can you write that? How can you do that stuff? And it's like, if I'm writing horror, that is like one of my worst nightmares. I love dogs. So to elevate and to explore the parts of my own psyche that I would hate, that's a vein that I have to tap. Like, there's a lot of stories that I've written about, not necessarily like massive phobias of mine, because my only phobia is floppy disk drives, and they went defunct in like 2003. But
God, is that true?
Yeah.
Shut up. No. Are you joking me?
No,
you don't like floppy disks?
No.
Are you kidding? This is a joke. Are you joking?
It's a genuine thing. Like, you can ask any of my old friends from school.
What? You don't like floppy disks? It's just a square of plastic.
No, it's not that. It's when you push them in and the fucking little door thing just like snaps shut behind it. And I was always terrified that it was going to cut off my finger.
Oh my God, this is the best episode ever.
There you go. I'm just going to get like bombarded with like pictures of floppy disk drives now.
Yeah.
But yeah, luckily I've not seen one in, I don't know, 4 years. Anyhow, so like with the horror, there is a lot of stuff there that has to come from what I perceive to be scary in order for me to write the fear in an organic way that will then translate to other people. And like you say, it's not something that I ever, excuse me, the COVID coughs come when I talk about it at the minute. It's not something that I often consciously put into the work. It's stuff that kind of comes organically, because when I write horror, I'm writing for me and I'm trying to scare myself. And by proxy, that then scares other people, hopefully. But there have definitely been sort of demons that I've exercised in terms of people that I've hated, people that like have upset me in some way, people that I've loved, and, you know, have put them into books in a particular way. Like, you can't write a character who is, for example, motherly and matriarchal and caring and giving without thinking of the ways that someone has given that to you. Like, it all comes from that emotional experience, whether we know it or not. But like, that's what informs the writing that we make, and that's what helps it connect with other people. I've changed their name in When Winter Comes, but in the early drafts of When Winter Comes, one of the bad guys was named after and sort of based on a guy that I once went to school with that a couple of years later then tried to mug me. Like, yeah, arsehole, definition of arsehole. And like, I hadn't seen him in like three years at that point. And then him and his group of friends just like found us in an empty street and just started like trying to mug me and my friends. Long story I could go into, but I won't. But so there are elements of him in one of the characters. And originally the first name was the same name. And then I was like, no, I need to remove that, because although I don't speak to him, I don't, know what they're doing these days. Like, it's just, for me, I just don't want that as a constant reminder. But excuse me. Yeah, I think, it's easier to say in nonfiction, because obviously in a lot of nonfiction for me, I try and put like my own personal stories, my own voice, my own experiences directly onto the page. But like you say, with fiction, it's you can't separate that. Even like, so one piece of research that I did years ago was I was going to do my dissertation on J.R.R. Tolkien, and
there's a surprise.
Well, yeah, and the fact that the Uruk-hai in Lord of the Rings were basically his version of Hitler's Übermensch, which is, the overman or the Superman, because Hitler at the time was trying to create a super Aryan race. And in the Lord of the Rings, Saruman creates this super force of orc and other creature to make like the perfect army. And there's so much online in interviews where those comparisons have tried to be drawn, and he expressly says, no, that's not a factor. But like, that's the whole point of like the unconscious. You can't definitively say, and stuff like that's going to impact what you're writing about. Like, I'm sure at some point, like a pandemic and, what I've learned over the last nearly 2 years is going to somehow inform a story that I've written. Because I've written virus stories before. I've written post-apocalyptic things where contagions get out and different things happen. But the next time I write it, it's likely going to be much more informed on real life experience. So yeah, I think there's a whole mix of it. Like, I definitely like the places that interest me the most, I try and put in there. And I can't say that I've been to a lot of these places, because a lot of the places that I write about tend to be the places I haven't been to, because I really struggle to write places that I do know, because I get lost in the accuracy. I know, it's a weird one. Okay. I tried to write a story that was based in Lincoln, where I used to live, and I just got bogged down in the details. I just like, well, that's not there, that wouldn't exist. Oh, but they need to understand that this is there to do that. And it was just too much. Whereas when I write about far away places that I can just get like a general scope of, I can then build that world myself. So yeah, going back, what's the specific wording of what you just asked? Because I'm trying to work out if I've answered it or not.
What pieces of yourself do you put into your writing?
Well, there you go then. My fears, my ambitions, the things that I love. I try, and even though I write horror, I very much try and pull out the hope and humanity and, fight and will for survival that humans have in desperate situations. That's something that I just love exploring. So in essence, I guess a lot of my horror comes from optimism. It comes from putting people in an awful situation, but then my focus is on how do they survive? How do they pull together, if they do, in a way that is heroic and believable, so that, if anything ever catastrophic does happen like that, I'm like, prepared and informed as best as I can be to get myself out of that situation. So yeah, there you go.
I like it. I think the thing you're saying about optimism, I think that comes from your hashtag number 4, positivity.
Yeah.
And I think the interesting thing is, even though I don't know how much you'll agree with this, but I definitely am a meliorist. So I definitely have hope and faith in humanity that we can stop being a bunch of assholes.
Mine's falling.
So I'm not wildly, I don't have positivity. And I learnt last night in a Becca talk that most people who are dominant in influencing strengths do not have positivity, because we live a life in pain. A lot of the influencing strengths find pain generative, and because we have such big wants and desires that we're chasing, or like competition goals, or like significance impact goals, and it takes a long time to get there, we live a lot of our life in pain, and so that doesn't gel well with positivity. Like, obviously there's a huge long explanation behind it. I'm distilling it down into very simple terms, but that said, I also think my influencing strengths do give me this driving meliorism that kind of forces me on in the stubborn faith that I can do the thing that I'm gunning for. And so yeah, I definitely think we share that. And I definitely, even when there are like stories that, you know, loved characters die or whatever, I still try to have hope in there.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I do like happy endings. I really don't like unhappy endings, which is why I don't like horror. But anyway, no, I know that you guys have some happy bits in there, hope or whatever. But anyway, so I find this question really interesting, because I almost think that we are the worst people to judge the parts of ourselves that we put in, because we can think that we've put stuff in, and then other people will be like, you know. And I know that like in Keepers, some people sort of said to me, oh, like turns of phrases I can hear, like when one of the characters says this, I can definitely hear that you would say that, which I think is, you know, inevitable. That is going to happen because we have language and we have dialogue, and, you know, to some extent, unless you've got a character with very, very voicey dialogue and kind of narration, that is going to happen. But yeah, I think the thing that I think I put in is much more philosophy based, like much more like value based. Like, and of course there are going to be, you know, like your villain characters are not going to have the same philosophies or values as you, but there are definitely little pieces of philosophy or values that I think I do put into characters. But yeah, I don't know. I think it's always an interesting, like, and like you also, I am very location based, but I do like to put in the locations that I visited.
Yeah.
And that definitely, like, so for example, I've trekked up to Mount Everest base camp, and the Himalaya, that trip very much influenced like the northern region in my books. So there's like a mountainous, very cold mountainous region. And even though it's not like for like I definitely put stuff, like there's a scene with a glacier in Trey book 3 where the main character and another character is sat by a glacier, and like it is that was very much based off of something that I had experienced. And so yeah, definitely there are things I think that we use as inspiration, but they get changed and warped and to fit whatever the story needs. But yeah, like I just think it's an interesting one, because people make out like self-inserts are a really bad thing, and whilst I'm sure, pardon,
who says that?
Just people, you know. And I think that, you know, of course, if you're going to just dump yourself in, then it's a memoir, it's not fiction. But I think that everybody puts pieces of themselves into their stories, whether they realize it or not, even if it's
impossible not to.
Exactly. It's a product of your imagination, it's a product of your subconscious and your conscious. And yeah, there are definitely things in there that I think that we do, whether we want to acknowledge it or not. And I know that not everybody will agree with me on that, but tough is my opinion.
Well, there's a reason that no one can write the book that you can write. Like,
exactly.
we live our own lives. We've learned our own things. We've had our own experiences. We see life through a lens, even if we live together with someone. Like your experience going back to before you met them is going to be vastly different to theirs. And that shapes who we are. And we all, you know, you and presumably your peers will have common things that you all share and all that kind of stuff. But you are your own person. So this is why they say, like, if you were to put an outline for one book in front of someone and the same outline in front of the other person, it's going to be two different stories, because you are inserting your own life experiences, what you think is good, what you think is bad, what you think, just in terms of how you construct the prose, and whether it's sort of like massively descriptive or very sort of minimalist and based in dialogue. It's just, you can't say, in my opinion, you can't say that no one's ever self-inserted, or like the people that say that self-inserting is bad will undoubtedly have put themselves, just maybe not consciously.
Yeah.
And I don't in any way see that as a bad thing, because I think for me, the best stories that I read are the ones that really dig into the human experience and make you feel an emotional resonance with that character. Yeah. And that only comes from realistic situations. Even if you're writing fantasy, there's still a touch of humanity that goes on between two characters when they're sat by the campfire. And for me, that's the stuff that bonds the reader to the writer.
Yeah. So, darling, I have realised we have made a grievous mistake, because the next bit we're supposed to talk about is our Q1 challenge, and we have not spoken about the Q1 challenge.
No, well, we haven't rounded up the Q4 challenge yet.
Okay, so Q4 challenge, I was supposed to read 30 books in the quarter. I did that. I did more than that in the end. I was supposed to do a logo for the thing, which I did, create a plan for a series of masterclasses. Edit accepted anthology stories. Yep.
Move house. Yep. Sorted, activated authors 2022 calendar. Action, first 2 months of content done. Dictate a novel, done. Dictate a short story, done. And I have put a post up now on the Facebook group, and people have started putting in whether or not they've completed their challenges themselves. Just as a reminder, there were 3 surprise prizes that will be coming to 3 of the people who have completed their things. And we'll probably give them a few more days, because I think they only went up 2 days ago.
Well, I was going to say, I think next week we should do a proper roundup: who got it, who didn't, who gets the prizes, and then a launch Q1. Yeah. Works
perfectly for me. So yeah, make sure that if you put anything in the original post, make sure that you get involved in the results post, so that you can stand a chance of winning some cool prizes,
which I will actually send on time this time. Okay, so audience question of the week is: what pieces of yourself do you put into your writing? And we will see you next week. Bye.
Happy New Year, and bye.
Hungry for more?
If you enjoyed this podcast, you can hear more of my angelic accent and Dan's dulcet tones on our other podcasts.
For more of me, check out the Great Writers Share podcast.
For more of me, listen to the Rebel Author podcast. We'll be back next week holding each other to account as Dan
and Sacha
become
next level
authors.
Right, motherfucker. We're back in town. We're back in town. I don't know what I'm singing.
Is that where we go with it? Is that how you want to start?
This is how NLA 2022 starts. Yeah, baby.
This is 2022. Welcome to 2022, the love child of 2021.
My favourite meme is like the one that's like, everyone walk into 2022 real fucking quiet. Nobody say anything. Nobody do anything.
How does King Wenceslas like his pizza?
I don't know.
Eat pan, crisp, and even.
What? Eat pan,
crisp, and even.
I don't get it.
Oh, it's fine. We'll just move forward. Welcome to 2022.